velkomin og við þurftum að vísa fjöldamanns frá því miður. Þannig að til hamingju með að vera hérna. Hérna eru ágætir gestir, meðal annars Svanur Sigurbjornsson, hvað ert þú? Hann er hann. Við erum sérlega glöð að sjá Svanur Sigurbjornsson hérna ásamt fleiri töframönnum af því að hann svo eftirminnilega í sjónvarpinu skar upp sjúkling og náði út úr honum Háskólatorgi HÍ, var það ekki? Hérna er líka Erlendur Haraldsson sem er prófessor í sálfræði og hefur kynnt sér dulsálfræði. Hérna eru fleiri lektorar og vísindamenn í sálfræði og öðrum vísindum og bara ég er allsæll. Takk fyrir að koma.
On behalf of Sidmennt, the Icelandic Ethical Humanist Association, and Vantru, I want to say that we are thrilled and delighted to finally have you here in Iceland. Some of us have been waiting 22 years to get James Randi here. I met Randi briefly in 1988 at a World Humanist Congress in Buffalo, New York. And he said he was hoping to come to Iceland the following year. Somehow the plans never worked out, but finally Randi has appeared 22 years later. Iceland needs you, James Randi. We've got plenty of pseudoscience, quackery, flim-flam, tomfoolery, and faith healers here. We've got it all. We need more voices of reason. We are thrilled to have yours here tonight. Before we introduce Mr. Randi directly, we're going to show you a short video about what he's been doing lately.
It's supposed to be a 5 on that side, but it's not. This is not made properly. 2 on that side, 4 on that side, 2 on that side, and 5 on that side. How to do it?
Skilled magician can reproduce any of these so-called psychic tricks.
Hi, I'm James Randi. I'm a magician. That is to say, I'm a fake. Watch this. I'm going to do a little trick for you. I'm going to bounce this pen on the edge of the table. Now I'll look away so you're sure I'm not blowing, but I want you to look right into your TV set, concentrate on it, make that pen fall off the table. Let's work on it now. Come on, concentrate. Stronger. Gee, that was very good. How did you do that? June 7th, we'll be offering $100,000 prize to anyone who can prove psychic powers on our program.
You're thinking of a pizza, right?
No.
A small little rodent, maybe a hat? A hat?
No.
A clothespin?
No. Wrong.
A shoe?
Gesundheit.
Oh, a man, a hammer?
No.
We're gonna get that money. We're gonna make that money. We're gonna make that money. We're gonna get your money, Randy. You're gonna be broke, man.
Do you believe everything you see on the news? How about a nationally reported story about a computer that determines the guilt or innocence of suspected criminals? Host James Randi, professional skeptic and debunker of frauds, takes us through the conception, the setup, and the payoff of these remarkable scams.
I'm James Randi, and in this special presentation, we'll look at the inner workings of some of history's most outrageous scams and the commonest men behind them. Now, most cons follow a very simple set of rules. The first rule is that the con artist always wins.
Tonight on Nova, James Randi, magician and investigator of psychic phenomena.
Don't laugh, this is science.
For 25 years, Randi has explored the world of the paranormal and tested claims of supernatural powers. Now Randi journeys to Russia to challenge psychics never before seen in the West. After decades of research, can we finally discover the secrets of the psychics?
Throw him up there on the stage. You don't have to leave with those pills.
He had people who were on medication, necessary medication, like nitroglycerin tablets for heart attack, digitalis, things like oral insulin. He had them come out of the audience and throw their pills up on stage.
Throw him up there. That's a blow of defeat for the devil.
As you see it, this is the real danger in all the faith healing.
It's one of the real dangers. The other danger is emotional dependence on charlatans like this, people who claim that they have an ability to tell you how to run your life and how to recover from disease.
Somebody praise him!
This week, Horizon is doing something completely different. For the first time, we are conducting our own experiment. We are testing a form of medicine which could transform the world. Should the results be positive, this man will have to give us $1 million.
Do the tests, prove that it works, and win $1 million.
Can psychics really sense what you can? Can the stars predict your future? And thousands of nurses say their touch can heal.
I'll give them $1 million if they can prove that.
Tonight, the supernatural, exposed by an expert on the bizarre.
Randi and his foundation have put up $1 million as a prize.
Oh, this is the one in Finland.
To anyone who can prove they have paranormal abilities. $1 million. It's in the bank. We checked.
But they say they can defy gravity, step over to the window there, and step out. And if you don't fall, hey, you win. You win.
Thank you so much. I'm very flattered with the size of the crowd tonight, but I must say that all over Europe, and this is our last stop in Europe before we do another tour, perhaps in a few months, we have had overflow audiences, and this is, we had to turn some people away outside, and I very much regret that. I also have a disappointment for some of you in the audience. I have been asked so many times if I will do this particular number, and I can't do it tonight. It's my naked dance on fire. I thought they were expecting it. No, as a matter of fact, I must admit to you that at the age of 81, there isn't that much request for it anymore. At one time, well, it's another matter altogether. Now, I am a magician by trade, you've been told that, and one of the magic tricks I can't seem to conquer is that we have a language barrier. I am so pleased, and Brandon, my assistant here, is so pleased that all over Europe, in fact, all over the world, I spent time in China and in every country of the world pretty well. And I find that I have to be flattered by the fact that my audiences understand my language. That's astonishing, really. It shows the pervasion of English-speaking facilities in the world, and I'm somewhat astonished by it. And I thank you very much for having studied English just so you could come and hear me. Now, I am sort of proud of a few facts in my life. I have gotten to know very, very famous people, and I've mixed with them. I have regular conversations with them and conferences with them. So that is a great privilege. But one thing I must tell you about that I'm particularly proud of, back in 1996, I got a call from the International Astronomical Union. And they announced to me that an asteroid had been named after me. And they were trying to think of what they would name it. I said, how about Randy? I said, that sounds good, yes. What else? George? But there is an asteroid up there called Randy now, and I was in such excitement, I went to the telephone and I called Sir Arthur C. Clarke in Sri Lanka, and I said, Arthur, guess what? They named an asteroid after me. And he paused for a moment. He said, yes, it is quite a privilege and an honor, isn't it? I had one named after me 8 years ago. Now that may be a little grumpy, I must admit. So I decided to do some research. Now I'm not a scientist, as I said, but I do basic research when it comes to something like this. And I called the IAU and I asked them for some details. I said, I want to know everything about asteroid Clarke and asteroid Randy. And they gave me the details. And I had the great pleasure of being able to email Arthur C. Clarke back. Now, I didn't phone him on the phone because I thought the reaction might be bad. But I went to the keyboard and I said, Dear Arthur, I have just found out something that should interest you. Your asteroid is 120 kilometers on the side. Mine is 140. Arthur, my asteroid is bigger than your asteroid. Now, that's sort of a mean trick, perhaps, to take advantage of poor Arthur. But we had very good relationships down through the years. I took great delight in doing that, but he was very helpful to me. He even dedicated one of his books to me, and that's quite a privilege, I can tell you. Now, as I told you, my expertise is as a magician. So what am I doing here in Europe, in fact traveling around the world, talking with people like, just with Richard Dawkins, for example, and D.Z. Myers, and various other people, very great authorities in the skeptic field and in the science field. So what are they doing talking with a magician? Why? As a magician, I know a few things about human psychology. I know how that head works. And all magicians, and we have a few prominent magicians visiting with us this evening, they will agree with me, I'm sure, that they know things about human psychology that the average psychologist doesn't know. One thing we know with great certainty is that people make assumptions. Now, when I say they make assumptions, that means they come to a conclusion based not on real evidence, but based upon things they have observed or that have been suggested to them. For example, a magician never walks out on a stage and says, I have here an ordinary deck of cards. No, we don't say that. And I tell all the students, don't ever say that, because that makes the audience think, wait a minute, maybe that isn't a regular deck of cards. You never give them anything to use, you see, and you don't suggest anything to them that you don't want them to think about. And a lot of people sitting here, when I said a lot of people make assumptions, I saw a few people looking rather smug and just to say, not me. I don't make assumptions. No, I need evidence. I think scientifically, I think rationally, I think logically. I don't make assumptions. Well, you already have made two major assumptions, and they're tricks of mine, you see. Many people saw me come out here and switch on this microphone. This is not a microphone. The microphone is concealed beneath my tie. That's not an assumption that's going to cost you any money or anything like that. But, well, what is this, by the way? It's a beard trimmer. And sometimes during a lecture, if you slow down, I'll trim my beard. But that's one assumption that you made, and you were wrong. But again, it's only to illustrate that point to you. Oh, there's another assumption you made too. You have an idea that I'm looking at you and actually seeing you. I just see blurs out there because normally I wear glasses, you see? No, these are not glasses, these are empty frames. No lenses in them whatsoever. So what is a grown man doing, coming out in front of an august audience like this, and appearing with glasses with no lenses in them? What good are they? Well, there's one old fellow told me one time, well, it's better than nothing. No, it isn't. Glasses that are not glasses. A microphone that is not a microphone. But you made those assumptions very easily because I suggested them to you. I came out and I picked this up and I looked at it and I switched it on. No, I didn't. I pretended to switch it on. And then I wrapped it like this and I said, no, I'm going to. You were hearing this microphone. That's the way we do it, we magicians. The lesson you are going to walk away with tonight, I hope, is this lesson. You can be fooled. You can be deceived. You can be cheated by people out there who want your money. They want your security. They want your emotional stability as well. They will destroy you if you give them the chance to do it. Now, at the James Randi Educational Foundation in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which we refer to as the JRAF, we fight astrology, speaking to the dead, prophecy of all kinds from stock markets to hockey scores even, curing illness, giving advice on critical matters, and things like tarot cards and crystal balls, love and marriage, any of these things. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my opening statement for you. All of that is nonsense, fraud, and misinformation, and I think during the next hour or so I will be able to prove it to you. Now, in the United States, we're very proud to say to people who ask, we have separation of church and state. We're very proud of that, yes. No, we don't. After all, we're just trying to recover from an administration that for 8 years bashed rationality and science. They depended upon faith-based thinking. Some fellow named George Bush was at the head of it, and I know you've heard of him. I used to be ashamed to come to America during that to Europe, during those 8 years. I had to try to explain George Bush, and no one can explain that. Not even Mrs. Bush. She tried on television, and she didn't make it. George Bush depended on faith-based thinking. Well, I got news for George. The word faith has two major meanings in my language. There are two different kinds of faith. One is faith that people adopt automatically because something sounds good. Oh, I'd like that to be true. Yes, I think I'll believe in that. Somebody gave me this happy story. Yes, I'll believe that. Why not? Makes me feel good. And there's another kind of faith, the kind of faith that I use, and I hope that you people do use too. It's evidence-based thinking. That kind of thinking you can depend on. That kind of faith you can depend on. Now, you can't have evidence for everything. So, in between, you will make a provisional decision. Well, that sounds as if it might be true. I'd like to look into it. But that's the magic word. You want to examine it. And you must examine it. There are sources for it. Now, Google, as we know, knows everything. And I refer to Google many, many times during the day. Via my computer, of course. Or telepathy, but that doesn't work. It's a real failure. I'm going to talk to you about many subjects this evening on which I can't give you firm evidence that you can walk away with, but I'm going to suggest certain things to you and ask you to consider them for yourselves. Now, UFOs. Oh boy. All over the world, this is a very big subject. What do we mean by UFOs? Well, we mean unidentified flying objects. Ladies and gentlemen, every time you step out on a clear day and you look up and you see what appears to be an aircraft going by, that's a UFO. It may be a flight to Latvia or to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, for all you know. But until you identify it, it's an unidentified flying object. Well, you see, what they mean by UFO really is something not in the solar system. Ooh, something seen at night. Why they always come at night, I have no idea. Just to be more mysterious, I'm not sure. But that's what they mean by the term UFO. They want you to believe that it's from out of the solar system, well, maybe Mars or someplace like that, or the moon, that's not it. And then they like to think that it's from an extraterrestrial source. Now, the nearest star to our sun, our solar system, is more than 2 light years away. I want you to think of this seriously, if you haven't before. I'm sure many of you have. A light year is a huge distance. It is a distance that light will travel inside of a year. And how fast does light travel? Well, in the non-metric system, it's 186,000 miles per second and about 300,000 kilometers per second. Think how far it travels inside of 1 year. That's the distance of a light year, the length of a light year. And the nearest star to our star is way out there in space, more than 2 light years away. It's an incredible distance to think about. And if somebody has come from that star system or some other star system, which would be even further away, in fact, very much further away, they would have to take all that time to get here, because you can't travel faster than light unless you fold through various dimensions, and I've heard all of that sort of thing, and it's not impossible. There are concepts there that would perhaps enable us to do faster than light travel without actually doing the traveling by folding space in another dimension. But this is far beyond this discussion. It's certainly far beyond my knowledge of the subject. I'm only an amateur scientist, remember. I don't claim any expertise in this field. But there are UFOs, such as the flight to Töframaðurinn. I'll be taking one tomorrow. Right? Is that help with it?
Yeah.
Good, okay. Thank you. Because I know a lot of luggage to carry. I don't deny the possibility, in fact, the very strong probability, of the fact that there are extraterrestrial forms of life out there. Now, what they are, we have no notion whatsoever. I want to discuss this at length in Cornell University with Carl Sagan, and we agreed, very closely, we agreed that it's impossible to imagine that there aren't other forms of life out there. I just think on Earth, right here, we have forms of life that most of us are totally unaware of, and until a few years ago, we were unaware of. Can you imagine a form of life that lives at the bottom of the ocean under great pressure in water which is above the point of boiling because it's under such pressure and is partially sulfuric acid? This is not a very pleasant environment, and I just wonder if the internet gets down there. I don't think there's much of it. These are tube worms, brightly colored yellow and red worms that never see light because light doesn't get down that far. So why are they pretty yellow and red? These are other mysteries we have to solve. But there are forms of life that survive under these conditions that are impossible for other forms of life anywhere on Earth. And they have a different chemistry. They're totally alien. So there are other alien forms of life. There's no question of that. And there may very well be out in space. In fact, there has to be out in space with, as Carl Sagan used to say, the billions and billions of galaxies. Those billions and billions of galaxies, think what a galaxy is now. It's a collection of other star masses and systems. It's a mass. Hello? Am I still on here? Am I?
Yeah.
You've got to think of the vast possibilities of other life. I do not deny, and I think no sensible person can deny, that there must be other forms of life out there. But one basic question that they all seem to miss is, they say, well, why haven't they been here? Wait a minute. Why do we assume that they would want to come here? After all, if they came during the Bush administration, they turned right around to that. We must not assume that they have the same desires that we have. Oh, we'd love to go there. and see these strange creatures. They may be only moths or something like that. We don't know, but they may be also very, very much evolved and capable of traveling here. So keep your mind open on the UFO thing, but don't believe the woo-woos out there. That's an expression I use to describe people who believe just about anything and will want to. Now, that brings me to an interesting angle here. I have examined the attitude of average persons when subjected to sensory input. I'll give you a quick example. Suppose you're sitting on a park bench on a nice summer day, and you're near a riding academy, just around the corner, a place where people are taught to ride horses, okay? And as you're sitting there looking around at the pretty girls going by, of course, what else? And you hear, you say to yourself, I think that's probably a horse. Now that's what you would say, and what I would say, and most people would certainly say. But there's another class of people, there are three of them I'm going to describe. The first one is us. We would think, riding academy, probably a horse. But somebody else sitting on the park bench with a friend perhaps says, did you hear that? Yes, I did. What do you suppose it is? Oh, I'm sure it's a zebra. There are people who will think that because they don't think on a rational level. They decide to jump up one. They want a little more adventure in their lives. I don't think it's going to be a zebra. Oh, it could be, sure. But it's not very likely. And then the third group, the real woo-woos out there, one turns to the other and says, did you hear that? Yes, I heard that. Oh, I know what that is. I'm sure it's a unicorn. So the third class is very, very hard to understand. But ladies and gentlemen, I deal with these people every day of my life. And it's not a lot of fun sometimes. They don't make any sense whatsoever. They're very scary people. Why? Because they have the same vote that I have. They might even vote George back in again. Whoa! Now I'm going to discuss a subject with you which brings in all of these woo-woo angles. It's an important subject. Homeopathy. Now homeopathy is something that you're all familiar with, I'm sure, in one way or another. But I'm just going to ask you if someone in the audience, by holding up a hand, this is not holding up a hand, this is holding up a hand, okay? Because my eyesight is so poor. Yeah, right. Can someone here in this audience give me one or two sentences that will describe what homeopathy is? And this gentleman has his hand up already. There. Sir, what would you like to tell us?
Distilled water.
Well, that's true, but that doesn't explain it very well. It's got to have some other things going for it.
Well, it's medicine that's basically just water.
Oh, all right. You're going to stick with that? Okay. Make sure it is. Hi, this gentleman right now.
It's when a substance like a medicine is so diluted with water that it practically doesn't exist. In some cases, they say they just put sort of wavelength or energy into the water, so there's no substance at all.
Okay, you've got it down pretty well. Now let me explain to you what I'm going to do it in detail with a chart over here. And this, if you have ever believed in homeopathy, and if this doesn't convince you that it's total, what's the technical term? Bullshit. If that doesn't convince you, nothing that I say will convince you. I step over to the magic board and you see a mathematics lesson here. Oh, a very simple lesson, yes, but I have to explain to you why I put it up here. The number 10 to the power of 1, which you need to express, is simply 10, okay? The number, the index here, is the number of zeros that follow the 1. All right. So 10 squared, or 10 to the second power, with 2 here, means that the 1 has 2 zeros following it. And 10 cubed, 3 zeros following it. That's simple mathematics. Okay. Let me tell you how they make homeopathic medicine. I'm glad most of you are seated because you'll fall down laughing. And I know the back row may fall over, so watch it. 220 years ago, a man named Samuel Hahnemann an Austrian gentleman who moved to Switzerland because in Switzerland they have much more quackery than most other countries. Still do. And he came up with this brilliant idea. This is the way to make a homeopathic compound. You take one part of the medicine, whatever, it could be belladonna, which is a deadly poison, but don't worry, you'll see in a minute that you don't have to worry about that. You can take, or it's salt, or it's sugar, it's anything you want to use. You take one part of it, and you put it in 10 parts of water. Then you have to success it. That simply means shake it. But it's a technical term, that's science, you see. I'm going to shake this. No, you're not. You're going to success it. Oh, okay. And you have to do that. Now, 10 is the magic number in homeopathy. The very magic number. You have to success it 10 times in 3 different dimensions, like this. You put it in the container and you shake it this way 10 times. You shake it this way 10 times. You shake it this way 10 times. What? Yeah, I can do a little bit of good. And that is the one solution. That's the one solution because it's 1 part in 10 of the original substance, okay? Then you take 1 part of the one solution and you put it in 10 parts of water and sugar, the whole thing all over again, see? And now you've got a 2 solution. That means 1 part in 100. Same thing for 3, you see, 1 part of that solution and 10 parts of water. And it goes on and on like this. When do you stop? Oh, not for quite some time. Because when they say it's dilute medicine, they mean dilute. Oh, yeah. You have never heard dilute described in this fashion. They go all the way, you ready to, some are still standing up, don't fall over, please. All the way to 10 to the 30th power. Now, Brandon, with a very weak marker here, some of you are very up close, you might be able to see it. That's 1 part in 1 followed by 30 zeros parts of water. Now, let me give you an illustration. One of the most popular homeopathic medicines is made, it's a medicine that they say relieves the symptoms of flu, influenza that is, and colds, you see. And it's made with a duck liver. Now, people will say, oh, too bad, poor duck. Well, ducks don't have much of a future anyway, you know. I never heard of a song written by a duck, or a poem or anything like that. They haven't contributed to society very much except by making other ducks. And I don't want to get into all the details, you know them, I'm sure. 1 duck liver, ladies and gentlemen, will make enough of that homeopathic medicine to fill the solar system with the sun at the center of it and the orbit of Pluto at the outside. Pluto used to be a planet, remember? And then a little bit more. To fill a sphere that size, 1 duck liver, so you know, wait till the duck dies of old age. You really don't have to kill it. And then you make all of this medicine. Isn't that incredible? That's the delusion that they are involved in. That's really, really dilute. Now, if you think that I'm going to write it around the wall here, no chance that Brandon did a break. He almost broke his arm writing that. A bad green marker. But that's the delusion that is employed in homeopathy. Now, I'm going to kill myself. Right now, oh yes, in front of you, yes, this is homeopathic suicide. We have a gentleman in the audience, a doctor, who is going to join us down here, and he's been videotaping this because he wants to see the suicide. Oh yes, he has it. Shake my hand if you would, doctor, before you kill it. Yes. This is, what's your name?
I'm Svanur Sigurbjornsson.
Yes. What kind of doctor are you?
I'm a physician in internal medicine.
Oh yes, well I have some problems. Okay. All right, and you have in your hand, what is that?
Well, this is a glass with tablets. On the box it says homeopathic medicinal product, and but it said without approved therapeutic indications. bad. But on the front it says arsenic, probably an album. And then the number 30C.
Ah, 30C. Well, there you are, 30C, right on the board there. Hey, 1 bit of arsenic in all of those parts of water. I think I'm safe. But I'm going to overdose on it. Does it say what the dosage is there?
Yeah, it says 120 tablets.
No, the dosage you're supposed to take. You're not supposed to take
Oh,
the whole
okay.
bottle.
Yeah, you're supposed to take...
Oh, I thought it was beer.
You're supposed to take 3 tablets into a clean mouth. And chewed 3 times daily.
Okay. All right, now would you open the bottle for that, please?
So this is, I'll show you, this is a sealed bottle, so not been tampered with by Randy or anyone. Who brought it, by the way?
Who brought it in here? Oh, yeah?
Yes. Thank you.
You bought it at a homeopathic?
I bought it at a pharmacy.
At a pharmacy? Yes. So much for that pharmacy. All right, Doctor, would you pour all the fatal dose into my hand here? There we go. That should be, I think, fatal.
Yeah.
But these things taste like chalk. I don't eat chalk very often, but it tastes just like chalk. It is not delicious at all. And let me see. I think I can throw it all back. Yep.
Only 3 times.
Okay. Right before, I do this in every one of my lectures all around the world. Usually what I take is sleeping tablets. And folks, you'll never guess what the active ingredient in the sleeping tablets is. It's coffea cruda. Yeah. Coffee beans, so not even the caffeine. It's coffee beans. Now, thank you very much, Doctor. Give him a round of applause. Can't wait to die like this. Okay. Now, the sleeping tablets that I usually take have coffea cruda. Now, you know, if you have a tiny particle of coffee bean, a tiny fraction of that, minuscule, indetectable fraction of that is actually caffeine. They don't even give you regular caffeine, just coffea cruda. And I regularly take a heavy overdose of these things. And I phoned my late friend who just died 2 weeks ago, Martin Gardner, you may know him. He died at the age of 95, full of honors, no regrets whatsoever. He was my good, good friend. Loved him dearly. I knew him for 60 years. Can you believe that? Anyway, he did a calculation for me, being a master mathematician. I said, Martin, how many sleeping tablets with coffea cruda in it would I have to swallow in order to make sure that I got at least 1 molecule of caffeine? He said, I'll call you back. Half an hour later, he called me back. He said, are you sitting down? I said, yes. And he gave me the figure. Ladies and gentlemen, he told me that I would have to eat 16 swimming pools full of in order to get at least 1 molecule of caffeine. Think of that picture now, just for a second. Me in a bathing suit, first of all. At one time it was fairly acceptable, but now I don't think you'd want to see that. It's like my naked dance on fire. It's not a favorite of all. But imagine jumping into a swimming pool and eating the whole damn swimming pool full of pills and then climbing out, or being lifted out on a derrick, and have them say to you, do you feel sleepy? No, not yet. Into the second swim. It's a ridiculous picture. But what I'm telling you, folks, is true. This is what homeopathy is all about. Ah, but the homeopaths, would get very angry hearing me say this. They say, yes, Mr. Randi, what you're saying is very true. But you see, you don't understand. Tell me why I don't understand. It's the vibrations that are left behind. Vibrations? If you gave these people this auditorium full of vibrations, they wouldn't know what they look like or what to do with them. They don't know what a vibration is. And they add to that, they say, oh, I forgot to tell you, it's a quantum vibration. By the way, it's much more important because they don't understand quantum theory either. Now, homeopathy is silly, it's true. But why am I telling you about it? Just to tell you that it's silly. Because it can cost people's lives, and it has done so. In the past, people have resorted to homeopathic compounds instead of taking regular medication. Now, medicine, the science of medicine is not perfect, not by any means. You see this man standing beside you, or before you here today. I have just spent 2 years after very serious medical problems that came that close to doing me in. I had a double heart bypass, followed by colon cancer, had the operation, and 6 months of chemotherapy, which is not a lot of fun, but it worked. It worked, and I'm still here. I intend to go on forever. Thank you for your encouragement. But the point is, medical science not being perfect, it means it is a science. And no science, and this is something that academics might be surprised to hear me say. I say that science doesn't discover facts. Science discovers principles, formulas, and statements that they believe expresses what happens in their particular art, their particular branch of science, but it's subject to examination at all times. Every scientific discovery doesn't come out as a fact. It comes out as almost as a suggestion of what is probably happening. Now look at the theory, the general theory of relativity. Now, the theory of relativity was first designed way back by Albert Einstein, as we all know, and it received great acclaim, and everybody was very excited about it in the scientific field. After they got used to the idea, it was an odd idea of how the universe works. And then someone pointed out that it didn't account for a couple of factors, like gravity, for example. And Albert went back to the drawing board, and he redid it and came out with the general theory of relativity, which does cover that. But there are certain things that it still doesn't cover. That's the way science is. It tries to explain everything about a certain facet of the universe. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't, they say, this requires further work. And that's a sensible statement, not a statement that the woo-woos, that the psychics and so-called paranormalists out there will say, no, oh, we've got the solution, that's all there is to it. So science makes statements about the universe, and we can depend on them to a large extent. Medical science is not perfect at all, and of course, while I was undergoing the chemotherapy, the nurses were telling me, Mr. Randi, with your luck and your reputation, the minute we finish this 6 months of chemotherapy, they're going to come up with a small pill that you put in your ears, okay, and boom, that'll do the whole job. They didn't come up with that yet, but I'm waiting for that just in case. So science does work. It has made our world very, very useful. It's made it safer, and it's prolonged our lifespan. Hey, not too long ago, the lifespan of a human being was 35 to 40 years. Really. There are people here that are ancient. I certainly am ancient. As a matter of fact, I'm so old, folks, that I go to museums a lot just to meet something that's older than I am. And I find that they're called fossils. Now, this homeopathy thing can be dangerous. They say right on the label, every time you look at the bottle, it says, natural. Wait a minute. Bird shit and gravel are natural. And I don't eat them, do you? I certainly hope not, maybe not knowingly. But on this box right here, this Zycam, now this just shows you how cunning these people are. This is a product sold in the United States of America, and it has content here. It says zinc gluconate, okay? 1x, that's the concentration. Really? That's 1 part in 10. That's 10% of each pill actually is constituted by zinc gluconate. And zinc gluconate will cure the symptoms of cold and flu. Just the symptoms. It relieves them. It doesn't cure the cold. It doesn't say that it does. 1x is not a homeopathic solution at all, folks. This is not homeopathic, but it says right here, homeopathic remedy. Why? Because in the United States of America, if it says homeopathic, you can charge 70% more for it. And on the pharmacy shelves, when you see that, you just go over it on one side or the other, and you'll find another medicine that doesn't say homeopathic. It says it has zinc gluconate, and it's in a 1x solution. There it is. The same thing, but it costs much more to buy the homeopathic one than the one that still works because it has exactly the same formulation. This is nonsense. This is not magic. This is just total nonsense, and it is a criminal activity so far as I'm concerned. Now, homeopathy in the United States is exempt from medical laws for a strange reason. Grandfathered in. That means it existed before the Food and Drug Administration in the United States existed, and therefore they can't touch it. It was already there. But I reminded them not too long ago on a public broadcast on television in the USA that heroin, crack cocaine, and these things were all on there too at the same time. So that means I can go into any pharmacy and say, give me 2 pounds of that pot over there, please. No, I can't do that. No, that's against the law. Well, why isn't this nonsense against the law? Because it's very hard to get American politicians, in fact politicians all over the world, to act on something that doesn't bring them directly votes or money, one or the other. Now we're going to show you another video. This video, I must tell you briefly what the story is. It deals with religious scams. This is a man named Peter Popoff. I came upon him because I wandered into a service that he was holding in a huge, huge auditorium, the size of a sports arena, with all these tens of thousands of people screaming and yelling, "Hail Jesus," and the whole business. All right. I'm bored by that nonsense. I think it's very childish. I really do. I think it's childish to believe in a mythical character in the sky who has everybody under control. That's my personal opinion. I don't force it on anybody. I just think it's total nonsense. However, I went in to see Peter Popoff. And I saw him going around the audience, and this is the way he would go around the audience. And Martin would say, he walked to the side and he'd say, "George, your name is George?" And the fellow would say, "Yes." "Did you tell me that, George?" "No." "All right. You have a problem with your right foot, George. You've got some problem. You've been to see the doctor. Is that correct, George?" "Yes, it is, brother." "Did you tell that to me or to anybody?" "No." Now, how did he know this? And then he calls up the fellow's phone number or his address or something, and the fellow is stunned. How could he have known that? Must be supernatural. Well, I find... No, not yet. Later. We'll talk later. Now, I was astonished by this. I said, well, this got to be getting information from someplace. And I found out. I sent my assistant down to look at him very carefully and walk near him. He came back and reported to me, and I said, that's the way he's doing it. We did some examination and we did some recording on subsequent days. This was in San Francisco, California. And then I went to the producer of the Johnny Carson show. Now, Johnny Carson was a close friend of mine, I must say. And we did many programs, 22 programs together over the years and such. And I went to his producer, very quiet. I didn't go to Johnny directly on this one. I went to his producer, Fred Furtive, and I said, "Fred, look what I got." He played the videotape. Whoa. He said, "This is very strong." He said, "I'll tell Johnny." I said, No, don't tell Johnny. "Oh, Johnny doesn't like surprises." Fred, think of the expression on his face when he sees the tape and realizes how it was done. Fred thought for a minute and he said, "Well, okay, but it's on your head." So I met the challenge, and what you're about to see is what we saw on television that night, revealing the Peter Popoff hoax.
Now, you've got a small piece of tape here we're going to look at. Would you tell us what we're going to see here and how you did this and what it's supposed to show?
Well, we researched Peter Popoff very, very well, and Mr. Popoff, pardon me, Reverend Popoff, is not going to be very happy with this, I don't think. You're going to see, first of all, a short segment of tape, as you would see it if you were watching it at home. This is what Popoff featured on his own program. You will apparently see a healing. Now, we went to Houston, Texas, and we discovered that the man was wearing, of all things, a hearing aid in his left ear, and a man who heals the deaf, Popoff himself.
Oh, I see.
And a man who heals the deaf and the blind isn't going to have much use for a hearing aid, one would think. If God is speaking to him, maybe someone else is speaking to him. So when we got to San Francisco, we put this fellow, Alec Jason, as an expert in electronics and a surveillance man, and he put a scanner, electronic scanner on it, and we picked up something interesting. But first, let's look at the first cut of tape.
All right, this is the tape as you would see it if you were watching the show. Okay, watch the monitors.
Who is Harold?
Got a great voice.
I just believe that God is going to burn those cataracts off of your eyes right now. 34788 Foothill Drive. I tell you, the angels of God are round about your home. Just take those glasses off and put your eyes. If you've got cataracts, if you've got glaucoma, I want you just to put your hand over your eyes as I pray for these precious ones. Sister, you've got eye problems too. Take your glasses off, lay your hands on your eyes. Here it comes to God is going to give these precious ones divine surgery. Right now, Jesus. That's it. That's the anointing of the Holy Ghost. Praise God. Praise God. I tell you, the anointing is flowing through this place. Thank you, Jesus.
Okay, now let's recap what we've seen here. These two people who were there had not met Popoff before themselves. And yet he calls out his name, and then he called out a number or something?
He called out their address.
Their address.
And they're astonished to hear this, because they didn't tell him. But what you don't know is that his wife has been touring around the audience, getting into conversation. Is Jesus going to heal you today? I see. Where do you live? This kind of thing. And they filled out healing cards in advance of the program and handed them in. They're now backstage, and someone is sitting at a transmitter backstage. Let's see that same segment again. But now you'll have the advantage of knowing what Peter Popoff is hearing in his left ear through a hearing aid.
Jerry Reed. Is it Jerry? Reed. Reed? Is it Reed? Jerry Reed?
It's a woman. She's praying for her husband, Harold.
Who is Harold?
He's got cataracts.
I just believe that God is going to burn those cataracts off of your eyes right now.
They live at 34788 Foothill Drive.
34788 Foothill Drive. I tell you, the angels of God are round about your home. Just take those glasses off and put your eyes. If you've got cataracts,
she's got eye problems too.
You've got glaucoma, I want you just to put your hand over your eyes as I pray for these precious ones. Sister, you've got eye problems too. Take your glasses off, lay your hands on your eyes. Here it comes to God is going to give these precious ones divine surgery. Right now, Jesus.
Well, that is, that's disturbing when you see it. You tend to laugh at it, and yet these people obviously are so impressed with what's going on.
Oh, they're absolutely impressed. You see people collapse on the floor, tears running down their faces, believing that their kids with drug addiction are going to be healed now because he knew their name. He says he's talking to God, that God speaks directly to him because he's an anointed minister. And three things amaze me about that. First of all, it turns out that God's frequency, I didn't know he used radio, is 39.170 megahertz. And God is a woman, obviously, and sounds exactly like Popoff's wife. No, he does not know about this until this very moment.
Interesting. Okay.
Thank you so much. What I have to tell you now is rather disheartening, I think. I found out that now that program was recorded in advance, you see, a couple of hours before it was broadcast in different time zones across the United States. And they do that so they can do some editing. And there was some editing necessary on this one in a very strange way. You saw Johnny say, you know, that's disturbing when you watch it. He said that because while the program was on, now he wasn't told in advance, you see, what the revelation was going to be. It was a surprise to him. And when he heard Mrs. Popoff saying 348 the address, he said right out loud in the studio audience here, he said, "Oh shit!" Then he did this, he held the audience back to see if they stopped laughing, and they obeyed for, and then they had to take that out of the tape later on that night, edit it out. But he was really surprised when he heard this. Johnny was a good friend of mine, oh my, a good friend, and every now and then a check for $100,000 would arrive in the mail for the James Randi Educational Foundation. And the Johnny Carson Foundation still helps us every year when we have our annual conferences in different parts of the world. So I'm very grateful to Johnny Carson for that. But when you see this kind of thing, it made Johnny very, very angry, and it made me very, very, very angry. The bottom line here is Peter Popoff is still in business. And we got a hold of his tax records, income tax records, for the year 2009. Johnny Carson died some years ago. And if he hadn't died, this would have been a terrible disappointment to him. Peter Popoff, in the year 2009, made $1 million more than the year he did in which we revealed him on television. You can't talk to people and convince them that they're being swindled. And 102 calls came in by telephone immediately following the broadcast in the Los Angeles studio there. And the question they all had, every one of them, was, how do we contact Peter Popoff? They didn't want to call him and tell him that he was a person of nonsense and a crook. They didn't want that. They wanted to know how to get to him so he can heal them. It is incredible. They don't learn. So sometimes I wonder why I'm doing this. Well, one reason I'm doing it, folks, is because it gives you people having this information. Being skeptical by nature, it gives you information that will help you fight the battle. You will have arguments, I hope, after what I'm telling you. You'll have arguments against those people who come up with all sorts of nonsense. You perhaps will have some arguments against them. You will be better armed. Now, we have what we call, at the office, we call it the carrot. You all know the old stunt of making a donkey move by putting a carrot on a stick and holding it in front of the donkey. Donkeys are not terribly smart, and they'll march forward trying to get the carrot. And we all know that. Well, this is the carrot we have. It's a $1 million carrot, folks. That's a big carrot. And it's very attractive to people who would like to have it. We offer them $1 million prize. They don't have to pay anything or enter any contest or anything like that. $1 million prize if they simply will prove the existence of any paranormal, occult, or supernatural power or force of any kind under proper observing conditions. It's that simple. Now, this has been, by the way, our webpage, Swift, gets 9,000 hits a day internationally. So this is very, very well known. And on Google, there's 1.4 billion references to the challenge. So everybody's got to know about it. If they don't know now, you do. And I'm sure those psychics out there, they know it, and they want to ignore it. One did accept the challenge on the Larry King Live show, which is seen internationally. All over the world, on certain channels, you can see the Larry King Live show. And Larry King pretty well forced Sylvia Browne into accepting the challenge to win the prize. Now, Sylvia Browne, you wouldn't know her name, I'm sure, but she's a woman who says that she talks to the dead. I too can talk to the dead. Hello? I mean, hello? Well, my friends will be down there. Anyone can talk to the dead, but getting them to answer, that's the big problem. But she says that she can do that, and hold on to your seats. She charges $850 for a 20-minute reading over the telephone.
Oh.
And she's booked up for the next 2 years. You have to wait. You send in the money now, in 2 years she'll call you up. She'll do a reading for you. Most of the reading consists of giving you the names of your guardian angels. That's what I need. And another part of the program, of the phone call that is dedicated to give you the names that you were known by in previous lives. And believe me, all the women were princesses, and all the men were brave warriors. I never heard a guy come forward and called Sylvia Brown, and she said, "Oh, you were a barber who cut the ears off his patients." Like that. Or you were a crook or something. No, never. They were always heroes in former lives. Now, Sylvia Brown accepted the offer on the Larry King Live Show, and we sat there and we waited to get her application. Very simple. You simply go to Swift, our webpage, and it's just read it over, print it up, sign it, get it notarized, and send it to us. Simple. Anybody can do that. Anybody, except Sylvia Brown. She said she didn't know how to reach me. She talks to dead people and she doesn't know how to reach me? With all those references on Google? She can't use a phone book? Apparently not. Well, then after she was told by the news media, yeah, why don't you, here's how you reach James Randi. And they gave her all the information. She then said she wasn't interested in answering the challenge because I'm not a godly person. Folks, seems to me that would be all the more reason why she'd want to take the $1 million away. Now, it's not my $1 million. It belongs to a fellow who sent it off to us to make the argument we have, the carrot, much larger and much more attractive. It's now $1.4 million because it's been well invested. It's been in an account for all this time. No one expects it. These religious claims, all religious claims of healing, curing illnesses, all of these things, communicating with the dead, they are all eligible for the $1 million prize. Now, in the United States, again, this is confession time, we haven't yet heard about the metric system. We're still doing things in miles and rods and inches and fractions thereof, and sixteenths. I mean, it is ridiculous. And we're still using that stupid Fahrenheit thermometer. I don't know who Fahrenheit. The system that is used does not. It only showed that these 20 reindeer, on this occasion, atmospheric pressure and temperature, time of day, and location such, either could not fly or chose not to. If the latter, then that means something about the IQ of the average reindeer. But we have not proven that there are not 8 tiny reindeer at the North Pole who can carry Santa Claus around the world to give gifts to children. So you cannot prove a negative. There are many, many negatives that you can't prove. Most negatives you cannot prove, and you shouldn't be expected to have to prove them. I do my office work usually early in the morning at my home in Florida, and on the wall right outside there are morning glories. I don't know the name of the morning glory in this country, but it's a vine that grows up the wall, and they have little trumpet-shaped, beautiful little purple-colored flowers. And during the night they close up. I've seen them at night when they're all closed up. And in the morning, they open up again. I don't know how they do it. It's very mysterious to me, because I'm not a botanist. I don't know about these things. But when I get down very, very early in the morning, just as the sun is coming up, and I look at the wall and I see them all closed up, this morning I'm going to catch you. I'm going to see how you open up. Okay, so I fire up the computer, turn on the printer. There we go. I'm watching. I'm watching good. Put that in the printer. I'm watching carefully. Oh, it opened up. It always catches me. I don't know how that happens. That's one of the mysteries of my life, you see. I have lots of mysteries in my life. I don't know the answers to all of these things. But folks, I will just remind you of this. We look upon ourselves as educated and modern, yet we still believe in angels, gods, demons, and devils, heaven and hell, and eternal life even. This is the 21st century. Number 21. It is not the 14th century. In this part of the world, as in all parts of the world, we're in the 21st century. We should learn to grow up. Well, I think that I have rather sufficiently grown up. And ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to join me. There will be a question and answer period right after I hear... No time? I'm sorry, there won't be a question and answer. So there. But if you'd like to meet me in the hall outside and you have a particularly important question, maybe we can ask that for you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.